thank you very much for doing it, man. We appreciate it. I'm sure the folks in the crowd are going to have some, interest in what we have to say, what you have to say, and then we've got questions. So what I typically do is I just kind of, we just chat, and then some people will filter in questions, and I'll just kind of read those off as they.
Very cool. I'm excited.
As they come in, if somebody has questions, so some people have some interest. So, Chris, just by way of introduction, I was telling people a little bit about your background. You're award-winning documentary filmmaker. You've had, I think, 5 films that you've completed on Netflix, and probably some other ones that weren't as popular. But and then you've adopted a carnivorous diet a couple of years ago. I know you and I talked about it, and it was kind of like, you're going to do it for a week, and I said no, do it for a month. And
wow.
It's had a big impact on your life, and you found some other things, with different things like kratom and ibogaine and things like that. So you've been really inspiring a lot of people. You've been very you and also Mark, your guys' platform has advanced this movement more than I certainly could have done it by myself, and I want to thank you guys for doing that. And many of the people in here were probably inspired in some part by you and your brother, and you guys are doing this and getting out there. And I know it's unpopular to get out there, and I know a lot of your documentaries have been unpopular topics. I mean, it's controversial, and you sitting there saying, "Hey, look, let's open the conversation up." And I'm trying to do this, like we see, last couple of days I've been on this little rant about the YouTube people saying anything that opposes the World Health Organization is considered against our policy, and therefore it's subject to removal. And I'm like, look, the WHO has screwed up many, many times, and if no one calls them on it, we end up with some problems. And I mean, they've done that during the coronavirus epidemic. They've changed their position multiple times. So they were wrong at least part of the time. And I would say their nutritional advice is way out there too, but that's another topic. So Chris, sorry, do you have anything else you want to add to your, I mean, I don't want to minimize the bio, but is there anything else we need to know about? Tell us. I know you're hopefully still in production on a new film. I know last I talked to you, and so tell me what you want to talk about, Chris. Tell us a little about your story, and then we can get into questions.
Yeah, sure. Well, going to what you said, I think we're at the perfect time to talk about big pharma and all these things, these controversial topics that I seem to talk about. Everything's coming to a head. As soon as this started, my brother Mark said, I think, was the ultimate response to this. He's like, this is time to pay up for everybody that hasn't been paying attention to their health, that hasn't been paying attention to their fitness. He's like, unfortunately, this thing came along, and it's taken the lives of people who are mostly, already unhealthy, which is a large percentage of our population, something like 88% of people who are metabolically unfit. Now, what I realized through this is that these metabolically unfit people, most of them are on prescription drugs to keep them alive, keep them going, keep them cranking every day. And with diet and exercise, we can get all these people off these prescription drugs, not reliant on all this shit that they're taking, and get people healthier a lot easier through things as simple as a carnivore diet. I have to really thank you because, like you said, I was going to go on this carnivore diet for 2 weeks, and here we are, like 2 years and a couple months right in, and I have no signs of stopping it. So you just mentioned something that a lot of people don't know about. It's called ibogaine. So after I did kratom for pain, right, I started seeking answers, because the carnivore diet did a great job of getting rid of a lot of inflammation in my body. But pain and inflammation, I don't think, are always like concurrent. So I still had like pains, like in places where I couldn't get rid of them, like things that would just hurt forever. And so as I explored more and more, I realized that ibogaine can actually reset all the pain receptors in your body. So ibogaine is a crazy drug. I'm not here recommending it, but it's not that crazy. It's all natural. It's 100% natural. It just comes from a tree bark. But it's like a 3-day psychedelic trip, which was actually a lot of fun. But it literally reset all the pain receptors in my body and reset all the receptors, and it got rid of all the cravings I ever had. What ibogaine is, it interrupts every addiction known to man. So if you're addicted to sugar, if you're addicted to tobacco, which I was addicted to both, basically, even though I was on a carnivore diet for 2 years, every time I cheat, I'd go off the rails with sugar. I don't do that anymore. And a lot of people ask me, well, why have you stayed on a carnivore diet if you got rid of all your pain? I don't even take kratom anymore for pain, right? So a month ago, I did this, and it's literally changed my life. And the reason I continue on a carnivore diet is because I've actually found in the couple of days since I did ibogaine, if I did eat something bad, like one day I had a pizza just to, I was like, who cares? Let me just see what happens. And after I ate pizza, I felt horrible. And that's when I realized, like, look, this is going to actually help me stay on a carnivore diet. A carnivore diet's going to keep me jacked and tan. And it's going to be a simple, easy way to just, like, I don't care about food anymore. What ibogaine does is detaches you from everything. And that was kind of the big miracle for me. And I think a lot of people get there just through simply doing the diet. I have my buddy right here, if you can see. It's my boy Hadi, the carnivore chef. He's just hanging out with me because we just walked 10,000 steps, and we've been doing that every single morning. We've been just getting up and walking 10,000 steps and getting our workouts in that way, and just eating steak. And through that, it's been amazing. I mean, it's been 2 weeks of just walking and walking and walking, and we've had some great conversations, and we're also staying in shape. I have not lost or gained a pound on the carnivore diet since the quarantine began, and I'm really proud of that. I think that's awesome to be able to just kind of stay where you're at. And I must commend you because you look the best I've ever seen you, man. I'm so proud of you.
Well, I mean, I'm doing something stupid, maybe considering competing in CrossFit. So I really have to lean out to do that, because it's too hard to do damn pull-ups when you're 245. So especially with my monkey long arms. And so, yeah, I want to say, because Hadi, man, that dude's, I really appreciate it. I've seen you post about him. It's good that he's been, because he was like, 400 plus pounds or something like that. Now we got abs peeking through or something like that. So, I mean, look at that, man. That is just.
You got the top of the abs peeking through, but he's got a lot of extra skin, so we got to deal with that.
Yeah, that takes time. I mean, like I said, I got a little of that too, quite honestly. But it's just it just takes time, and being lean for a long period of time to do it. And
yeah.
Anyway, talk to me, Chris, about the film, because I mean, everybody. I literally got a message this morning. Hey, why don't you make a film about carnivore and get Rogan to do it? I said, no, Chris Bell's doing it already.
Oh,
we're talking about right now.
Here's the deal. I'm trying to do it, right? So I went into Netflix, and we had an awesome pitch at Netflix. They were really into it. It seemed like when we walked out of the room, the producers were like, you crushed it. Like, you totally nailed it. They're going to definitely do this. And then of course they came back and said, well, we can't do it. And I said, well, I didn't think they were going to do it, because if they do it, it's like if they fund it, they're picking a side. But basically what they told me is kind of like, hey, go out. Like they kind of wink, wink, nod, nod, give you like, go out and do this, and then we'll probably buy it anyway. You know what I mean? That's the sense that I got from them. Whether that's true or not, I don't know. But the feeling I got from them is like they were very, very interested in the subject matter. There's probably just some higher ups that were like, movie about all meat. I don't know. It sounds controversial. Whatever. I don't really know. So what we have to do is go out and raise money. So currently right now, what I'm literally working on every day is just a trailer for this movie called Meathead, which will basically like tell my story, but also tell what I think needs to happen is we need to tell your story as well, and how you got into all this, and how you spread this message to the world, and then go out and interview all the people that we see below that are in this forum that have had these great results, and people like Hadi. Like, you've affected so many lives, because I was doing keto for so long. Like I did a carnivore diet 25 years ago. I talked about it on Joe Rogan, 5 years ago. I said, and I've been doing this for a long time. I used to eat just red meat and water. And he goes, what? Like, what were your shits like? And that was the first time I ever mentioned it. And that was before I ever met you, but I didn't really do the diet. You know what I mean? I would do it for like a couple weeks at a time before a powerlifting meet. So it wasn't a true carnivore diet. And to tell you the truth, at the time, I didn't know anything about it. So I didn't know it was good for pain. I didn't know it was good for anxiety and depression and all these other things that it could help with. So I was just doing it, willy-nilly. So I think we got to tell that whole story and work all that stuff in there. But it's just going to take me raising some money and doing it. I'm a little against the crowdfunding thing. I think the crowdfunding thing can kind of not necessarily cheapen the project necessarily, but it can cheapen the person that's trying to do the project, because you have to basically go on, Instagram and beg people for money. And unless you have a gigantic platform of over 1 million followers and things like that, it's kind of hard to get people to respond and put in money. And I've had really good luck. I've done 4 films. that have been on Netflix. You know, one of them's been to Sundance, one of them has been to Tribeca Film Festival. And the best luck I've had was just finding a couple people that said, like, yeah, I'll throw in 100,000. You know, like we luckily, Mark and I know a lot of people that have been very successful, and those are the people I go to and start asking them for money. So basically, what we're going to do though is put something together first, so that we can go out and pitch this and get the proper amount of money we need and make the right movie. Because it'd be real easy to go out and get $100,000 and make a movie for like 100 grand, but it'd kind of be shitty. And I don't want to do that. I want to do something that, if I do something, I want it to change the world, you know?
Yeah, I know I sat in a meeting with you and some of the people that are helping to get at least the initial funding going. And so I'm excited about that. When do you, well, there's a couple of questions that came out. I was going to get these out of the way real quick. And somebody was just asking about a brand of Kratom called, let me find it here. It was called Urban Ice. Is that something you use or recommend, or what are your thoughts?
Yep, they're a great company. It's owned by my friend Kelly Dunn. I know exactly what they do every single day. They operate basically at the highest level. Full disclosure, they actually make Mind Bullet for us. So there you go. If you want to know if they're good or not, yeah, we use them to make our product. They co-pack our product. Mark and I just put a different name on it and put it in a bottle so that our followers had something that they knew they could trust. So a lot of times if it's coming from like Urban Ice, people might be like, well, I don't know that brand. If it's like, hey, Mark Bell's selling it, like, okay, cool, I'll buy it. So that's the only reason why we did that. But yeah, basically it's the same thing. Ours is the Mangda version of Urban Ice. So, you know, whatever you prefer, go for it. I think Kratom, you know, even though I haven't used Kratom once since my ibogaine treatment, because I haven't had any pain, and I was in massive amounts of pain, like every day, you know. So, and I've been walking 5 miles every day because I'm out of pain. I wouldn't been able to do that at all before. I would maybe walk a mile and be pretty much shot for the day.
Yeah, and I think in context, because some people don't realize, you know, Chris, you're what, 46, 47 now? I can't remember.
47, yeah.
47. You have 2 hip replacements, which have been in for a while, and one was a revision. So you've had one hip replaced twice,
Yep.
and you're still in there doing squats with 500-600 pounds on your back. You're doing deadlifts, you know, trap bar deadlifts with 600 pounds. That's freaking amazing, you know. And I mean, it's you know, just to show you what can be achieved. And you were nowhere near that 2 years ago, 2.5 years ago.
What's so crazy is when I met you, we were in the gym. And I actually have the footage. I was looking at the footage the other day of us lifting, and you deadlifted like 500 pounds, and then you were doing all these crazy jumps and all this crazy stuff. I wasn't anywhere near you then. Like, I was so far away. I think I deadlifted 315 that day, you know. And then I got up to on a my sobriety date. I've been 5 years. I'm going on 6 years sober, coming on April 29th, right? So coming up, I'll be 6 years sober. But on my 5-year sobriety date, I did it was a raised up deadlift, but it was with a trap bar. And I did a 700-pound deadlift on my sobriety date just to push something. And then you and I went to Hawaii. Remember how crazy that was? We did 47 reps with 405 with just like, there was a couple people in between, but basically everybody dropped out except for me, you, and the gym owner named Mark, who stayed in there. He was an Iron, what's it called? Iron Warrior?
Yeah, Iron Hawaiian, yeah, Iron Hawaiian gym. That's where the Rock trains sometimes when he's in Hawaii. Yeah, let me just, because you know, Chris and I, it was his birthday, and I spent his last 2 birthdays we spent together for some crazy reason. We were in Hawaii doing a lecture to this group in one of his gyms about carnivore diet and stuff. And then it was his birthday, and I think we went out to Outback Steak, and we had a birthday celebration.
Yep.
Yeah, exactly. And then he said, well, tomorrow we're going to do a birthday workout. And I said, hey, Chris, let's deadlift 405. You're turning 47. Let's do it for 47 reps. And, you know, he agreed, but I knew he was like, man, I don't want to do this.
I didn't want to do it at all.
I could tell he was like, yeah, I'm bullying him into doing it, but I knew he could. And so we got in there and we started doing it. And like 5 other guys from the gym jumped in. We all started going around. There was music going. And it was just like one guy would lift 405 and the next guy would walk up and lift 405. We go round and around and around and around 47 times. You know, some people made it to 20, some people made it to 25. People were dropping out. But Chris was still going. And you could tell he was on a mission. And I was like, well, I can't let Chris beat me, so I got to keep going. And so we just did it, and then, you know, we all kind of just had a great time. That was fun. I mean, I think it was something you think you couldn't have done, but you did, which is amazing.
A really healthy rivalry with you because, you know, you're a friend of mine, but every time I see you doing something like swinging that heavy kettlebell, the 200-pound kettlebell,
Yeah.
I go into the gym and I grab that thing and I try to do it. And I can't get near the amount of reps that you can get, but I can do it like 10 or 15 times. I'm like, oh shit, I saw Dr. Baker do this 25. There's still a lot to go. And it just drives me, you know?
Yeah. Well, that's good.
And that 200-pound kettlebell throws me around. I forget that I only weigh 190 pounds. I don't weigh, 240 or something. I don't know how much you weigh, but I'm not big like that, so I forget about that. And I tend to forget about it when I train with my brother. I forget that he's like 50 pounds heavier than me, and I try to do all the same weights that he's doing. So I like that, though. I like that competitive drive. I think
I think that the biggest thing that's driven me as an athlete is having a rival, whether it's friendly or not. I mean, at the time you're training, you hate the guy. You're like, I mean, and I mean, it's literally when I was rowing world champs, I knew the guy that was a world record holder, and he's the nicest guy. He's this big German guy, big shot putter from Germany, lives in Norway now, this huge guy, and he had the world record. And I literally had a picture of that guy up and said, I can beat you. I would make up in my mind why he's a bad person just to give myself, why I can beat this guy. No one's better than me. And then I broke the world record, and I was like, yeah, well, there you go. But I mean, he's such a nice guy. And I would, in person, I thought sure we get along really well. But it's good to have that rival. Some people make themselves a rival and they beat themselves up. And I think I like to deflect that on other people so it doesn't ruin.
Yeah, I also have the added bonus of like my younger brother being what I think is one of the most brilliant strength coaches in the country, because he's taken things from like everybody and just kind of combined them into like what works. And Mark's just a meathead. He was dyslexic and learning disabled, all going through school. He was never like really a scientist or like, he's not like one of these PhD guys. He just like, hey man, I just know what works and what doesn't. And I just apply these different things, and he works with the top people in the world. So I have the luxury of being around a lot of really smart, intelligent people, like including yourself. Like what a lot of people don't understand is that when I saw you on Joe Rogan, the very next step was I tweeted to you. And then 2 seconds later, we're on the phone because you knew bigger, stronger, faster. And like, you were like, hey, I'm willing to talk to you. Let's talk about this, And so because I feel very blessed in that way, very lucky to be able to talk to the top people in the world and get information from the top people of the world. And, also be part of helping some people get there, like Dr. Saladino. Like Dr. Saladino first showed up at our first carnivore meetup, and now he's out there crushing it. So I like to be part of this community. I love what the community's doing. I love how everybody kind of like works together and, figures out ways to help each other. Like I'm here with carnivore chef Hadi right here, and he's helping a ton of other people. Like this guy here sent our friend Gormy. I think everybody knows Gormy Goes Keto. Yeah. This guy just like sent him a box of meat because he lost his job. I mean, like the people in the carnivore community are just so cool and so great. And, he needs shout outs for that kind of stuff. So shout out to Hadi for taking care of people,
Absolutely. Thank you for doing that. And I mean, it's like I said, it is a community. And I think, we all try to provide support for each other. I mean, ultimately, I know I'm out there sort of, kicking up dust and, pissing people off. At the same time, it's all about supporting each other. And we are, I think doing that well. Trinity's asking you, where does the name Boar come from? I don't even know. Where did Boar, I mean, I don't know, maybe you thought you looked like a wild boar or something like that. Where's that? Where's Boar come
when
from?
I was in high school, I used to use the term full bore all the time. I used to say full bore. And then the Lion King came out, and there's that character Pumbaa, who was a wild boar or a warthog. And Mark just started calling me Boar. He's like, you're like a boar. He's like, you're short, fat, and destructive. And he's like, basically that's it. He's like, he's like, everything you do is full bore. Like you're always going crazy. Like every time you have like a project or an idea, you just like attack it. And that's actually how I used to be for a really long time, actually before I had my hip surgery and before I went through drug addiction. And actually now I feel like I feel like the Boar is back. I feel like for the past 6 years that even you've known me, like you don't know yet because you haven't been around me yet since I did this ibogaine treatment, but like I am a different person altogether. I'm just way more calm, way more relaxed, but I'm way more cerebral about everything that I do and about what I put in my body and what I'm doing with my career, and just everything's way more cerebral. So I feel like I'm back to being the Boar, and I feel like it's a very fitting nickname, and it's cool because it's not very common,
Yeah, that's, I mean, I'm just wondering, I think it's fascinating. Like I said, I don't discount, having been in this carnivore space and seeing all the miraculous changes, I don't discount anybody that says, hey, look, this worked for me. And if it's objective, it works.
Yeah.
And that's really, really great that you found another thing to sort of continue to find. And this is the thing when I talk about, and I've mentioned this before. I mean, when people are talking about dogmatic, or people, I really want to be a carnivore. I mean, that's like their goal. And I said, why is that your goal? I mean, your
Yeah.
goal should be, I want to really be healthy. I don't care how you get there. I mean, carnivore is a tool. It's not a goal. And I think people have to realize that, and that's why we have to realize within this community that it isn't an exclusionary. Oh my God, you ate a piece of dark chocolate, and therefore
Yeah.
you're not a quote unquote carnivore. I think I know it's unfortunate there's a name on this. It should be eat healthy food and have a healthy lifestyle. But, I mean, just for lack of more clarity, saying this is animal focused, I actually made the name carnivore diet. I mean,
Yeah.
it was zero carb. And I said, yeah, I don't zero carb. This doesn't resonate with me. And I actually coined the term carnivore. I mean, I didn't make up the name carnivore. I mean, there's obviously carnivores out there, but from attaching it to a diet instead of the drinking man diet or the Atkins diet, I said, hey, this is called the carnivore diet. And it has stuck, and it is, for whatever reason, that name
Yeah.
works for a lot of people. It gets,
We
it
call it
gets,
red meat and water. Was the
yeah, I mean, you could call it that, but then people would be saying, I'm eating eggs, I'm eating fish, then it becomes very confusing. And so I think it's just for that reason, but I don't, when I go to lecture, I say, look, a carnivore diet is an animal centric diet, and you limit it or eliminate the vegetables or the plants as needed. And for some people, it's 100%. And for many people, it's 100%. For some people, it's, they have 2% of their plants in their diet. They put spices on their food. Who cares?
how I am, you know?
And I like that about you, and you're not afraid to say, here I'm eating, here I am, I'm eating it in and out, and I've done that, and I've been, people, oh my God, how dare you do that? It's poison, and I don't believe that. I certainly think, and I see Steve Wicks in the room, and I certainly support regenerative agriculture, and I think Bill Campo Meats and White Oaks Pasture and Alder Spring Ranch and on and on and on and on and on. We need to get behind that stuff. That is the way forward, no doubt. But to say that regular meat is poison, I think is a little bit stretching the truth quite a bit there. And, like I said, not everybody can afford that. Not everybody's in a position to do that. We got Brett Lloyd there going to Sam's Club buying his food, and he's happy and healthy as can be compared to where he is. So you can't tell me he's eating poison. I mean, I think this is just garbage. But at the same time, I think that the message is, let's get away from the junk food. And I think when you talk about the movie, and I know you and I've talked about some of this stuff, and there's so many facets that you can go into this stuff. And, I mean, from the climate change, from the health issues, from the ethical issues, from, just the crazy, crazy stories. And I'm glad, we have no shortage of people that I'm sure that would be happy to share their story on film. And I mean, you can get some, and I know I've seen if you guys haven't watched the Chris Bell film, they are really, really well done. I mean, what I like about Chris is he's very accessible. That means, when you're watching it, it's the everyman. He comes from this perspective of the everyman. He gets it across really well. You don't need a real technical story sometimes. You don't need to, like, oh, this is this or that. I mean, it's emotion, it's real life. It's what really moves it. It moves the needle farther than other things do. I mean,
I
I said,
I have a really hard time lying also. So like one of the challenges so first of all, I've never watched Game Changers. Like I haven't, after I saw your review, I've never watched it, but I can't even get myself to watch it because it makes me so mad as a filmmaker that like Netflix would allow this. You know what I mean? That makes me angry because I know how much work I have to put in my documentaries to prove everything. And like, yeah, you can skirt around things and still have the proper proof. And that's what they did. But I feel like I can't lie that good. So, whatever I do needs to be based on like real things, but I have the real thing right here. This guy was 400 pounds, right? He weighs 200 pounds. He just deadlifted 400 pounds in a powerlifting competition. He did it by following my brother and I, which is basically following you also, because you're the one that gave me the information. So by following us, I should say, Hadi lost, 200 pounds, competed in a powerlifting competition and deadlifted 400 pounds. That's pretty amazing to me. And that's all in a matter of like a year, right? So it wasn't like a huge thing that took him 10 years and it wasn't that crazy. And if I can just show people the truth and say, look at what this guy did. And he did it eating regular meat. Like he wakes up at 4:00 in the morning every day and goes to work. So he's got a hard job. He unloads trucks all day and he still shows up for his workouts and he still eats his meals and there's no excuses. And those are the kind of people that we need to put out in the forefront so people can see that this can be done and that it can be done really effectively. And sometimes, honestly, I get jealous, or like he's got such good work ethic that I get jealous of his work ethic, and it makes me work harder. A lot of times, like if we're in the gym and I see him pushing it, I'll push harder. So I think having those people around is really important.
Yeah, I mean, I've seen his story. Obviously, and it's nice to finally see him or kind of meet him sort of virtually. And, I mean, and it would be one thing if that was the only story out there, but the good thing is we've got
There's
thousands and
hundreds.
thousands of them.
You
And
know, Arnold Schwarzenegger's, this is ironic, so ironic, right? So Arnold Schwarzenegger, who was in Game Changers, his stunt double and like stand-in is a guy named Brett Lazar. And Brett is jacked and shredded. He looks awesome. He's a bodybuilder. But what I didn't know is he was suffering really, really bad from Crohn's disease. And he's like, I've been, I thought I had nothing to offer this guy because he's shredded. You know what I mean? Like, he looks awesome. Comes up to me in the gym and he's like, hey, man, let me ask you about kratom for Crohn's disease. I said, it'd be better than kratom. Like, kratom might help you. So he started taking that, and he had some depression too from the Crohn's. And he said, well, that kratom really helped me with the depression. But what really helped me, like cured my Crohn's disease, is the carnivore diet. So he basically just started doing everything I was doing because he thought it would, maybe it would work for him. And he literally hasn't had a flare up in 6 months. I think that's amazing. Somebody who was depressed because they couldn't, their stomach hurt so bad all the time and they couldn't figure it out. And it's been going on his whole entire life. And he's a bodybuilder and he's jacked. To me, that's like a miracle. And like you said, it just doesn't end. It's like, I posted a guy last night who's like, hey man, I just lost almost 100 pounds since January, just following you guys. Mark did this thing, Carnivore 100, where he said, I'm going to do 100 days of carnivore. I know like Danny Vega did like Carnivore 75 before that. Like, people just come up with their own things. I think all those challenges are great. Mark and I have like a war on carbs, and we'll just launch that every once in a while. I love like the different months that people pick, like especially January, that's like, you can't help but get shredded in January when it's World Carnivore Month and everybody's doing it.
Yeah, I am, for whatever reason, we did an April challenge. Well, guess what? May is going to be Meaty May or Meat Filled May or whatever. We're going to do it every month.
Every month, make a new one to get
everyone every single month, because I think it really, people are willing to try 30 days, and you just you get a little community, you get a little group saying, hey, we're going to try it together. And then, maybe half of them stick around, and then then they grow. And I mean, if we can get half the people to get healthy, I mean, my goodness, what of an impact, what would the impact would that have on our $3.7 trillion of healthcare spending?
And also, like you were talking about before, like when we went to Hawaii, my major speech was like, don't be dogmatic about this. Like, I don't care if people eat vegetables if they don't have autoimmune conditions, but I was broken, I was hurting so bad. I had to get rid of vegetables. I had a lot of digestive issues also. And I find that like vegetables just, prop those back up. Even dairy, which is like, admittedly, I'll have too much dairy sometimes, and it will give me upset stomachs. Some of the stuff that I take, like if I have too much MCT oil or something like that, which sometimes I use in my coffee, I usually use the MCT powder from like Perfect Keto because it's flavored and it kind of tastes good. So I'll have that once in a while. But like if I have too much of any of those things, I have to be honest with myself, even though like they kind of fit into my diet. If it's hurting me, pull it out. You know what I mean? And so that's what I tell people. If it's hurting you, pull it out. If it's not hurting you, then leave it in. A lot of people hit me up about fiber, and they really think they need fiber. I'm like, well, if you think you need fiber, there's plenty of fiber that you can find in like fruit and other things that are like actually fine to have, in my opinion, on this diet. So I do eat some fruit here and there. I think that's totally fine. I try to eat things that are like in season and, available and whatever. But I think a little fruit here and there, it helps you with sanity also, not just satiety, it helps you not go crazy. And I think that that's okay. Look, I haven't had a problem with it. If I want to get more shredded, I just cut those things out. Like if I want to get real lean and stay lean, I'll cut those things out. But, then when you get lean, you could probably introduce those things again, right? And still be fine once you get down to that weight. But everything, as much as we hate it, things do boil down to calories. And if you want to lose weight and get leaner and whatever, you got to lower that, that calorie zone. And usually that's coming from fat, in my in my case, I have to lower my fat if I want to get leaner, you know, and just push protein. But
Yeah,
the
I
beautiful
think, and I've commented on this quite a bit. You know, obviously that's what I'm doing right now to get lean. It works. I mean, I think you need a minimum amount of fat, and I think fat should not be feared. I do think, you know, the nice thing about a carnivore diet is you can generally eat more food than you can on a carb-based diet. And I think a lot of people confuse that fact, and this has to do with the metabolism of protein in some degree, perhaps the fact that low carb may impart another caloric advantage, but there is a ceiling, you know, but it's hard to hit a lot of times. So a lot of people struggle to eat enough on carnivore more so, but there are some people that can overeat. And when you overload the system with energy, whether it's carbs, fat, or to some degree protein, but pretty hard, you do run into issues with obesity, you know, insulin issues. And so I do think there's a wider window on
yeah.
carnivore than there is on other diets, but there is a window. And I can tell you from both experience personally and experience with a lot of people, you know, you do still have to talk about that, discuss
One
that.
of the things that's really helped me is, and they're a great company. They practice regenerative agriculture, is certified Piedmontese. They've been great in what they've been doing, you know, to help our community, and basically they kind of like sponsor me. They've been awesome because they have leaner beef, but it still tastes really good. So some of the when people have problems getting in protein, if they can buy all the regular cheaper steaks they want, but if they want to get something a little bit better, they can get these Piedmontese flat irons. They literally have like no fat in them. They have like 1 or 2 grams of fat in them, and they're just all protein, and they're so tender and juicy and awesome, that a couple Piedmontese steaks thrown into your regular diet will literally just jack up your protein. It's not a protein shake or something that's going to like go in and out. It's something that your body's going to take in and absorb and use and help you burn more fat. And so when I want to up my protein, I just throw in some of those really lean steaks because they still taste great. And if you need to add a little fat to get it to the point where you need, then you can just add fat as needed.
Yeah, we had Joe and Shane on, Joe Finnegan and Shane, the proprietors of Certified Piedmont, a couple of days ago. So we got to talk about that. Yeah, and they are, I mean, like I said, eating leaner meat can suck because it's dry, it's chewy, it doesn't taste very good. You have to add fat in there. But in that particular case, because it has very little connective tissue, it tends to be very tender, very juicy. Literally the first time I had one of their steaks and I looked at the fat content, I'm like, man, this isn't gonna be very good. And I ate it and I was like, wow, this is actually surprisingly very good. So if you are interested in leaning out, going that route, that's a pretty good way to do it, I think. No,
Yeah, to me, it's better than chicken, you know, and it's got more from what you taught me and from what I learned from all the carnivores is that basically nutrient, you know, your nutrient density, the richness of the nutrients in your food is really important. So if you're eating chicken breasts all the time, you're just not going to get that, right? But you could do the same exact diet, eating Piedmontese flat iron steaks every single day and just get absolutely shredded because it's got less fat than boneless, skinless chicken breasts. That's crazy to me. Like as soon as I heard that, actually, the way that I got hooked on Piedmontese is I live up in Davis, California, by Sacramento now, by my brother, and they sell it here in stores, and I kept seeing it. And for the longest time, I was actually seeking out Belgian blue beef because that's the cows that were in bigger, stronger, faster, that were all jacked and muscular. And I just remember eating that beef and having it be real tender and having it be real good and having it be real lean. So I was trying to like seek that out. I even posted about Belgian blue a couple times. And then I was in the store one day and I just started talking to the butcher and I'm like, what's the deal with this Piedmontese? And then he showed me a picture of the cow and it was, you know, all jacked. And I said, well, that's what I need. I need that stuff. And then after using it and posting about it a couple times, Piedmontese would always like send me like, hey, thumbs up on my Instagram and stuff like that. And so they just basically reached out to me and said, hey, can we talk to you about this? And when I told them I was on a carnivore diet and there was a whole community, they had no idea. They didn't know this was going on. They were like, oh my God, we want in. So I love that they wanted in. And then I actually got Piedmontese to go into all the Hop Dottie locations. So now Hop Dottie is going to be exclusively serving Piedmontese beef, which is just a better, for burgers, it's going to be kind of about the same fat content because they got to make them taste good. But the burgers from Piedmontese, they're so tender and juicy. They're like absolutely delicious. So I'm glad I could like make things like that happen. And it was just like, look, I got a meat sponsor. I tell people I'm very transparent about it. I don't get paid by Piedmontese. They give me free meat. They're probably going to help support the movie I'm going to do. I'm very honest and open about that because I think it's actually cool. It's like I earned something, you know, like I earned that by eating a lot. I ate so much meat that I get free meat. I think that's pretty cool, you know, and I share it with all these guys. Like Carnivore Chef just ate a giant tri-tip last night, courtesy of Piedmontese.
Did you make him cook it?
His girlfriend cooked it.
My girlfriend cooked it.
This guy's got a carnivore girlfriend now too. His life has totally changed now. So
Yeah, I mean, that's pretty cool. And that's the thing I think that is interesting, you know, with the relationship we're developing with these ranchers and stuff. And like I said, I am, you know, as much as people have an interest in that, I'm always happy to bring those guys on and talk to them and talk about the product and promote them.
they're also, just so people know, they're very cool. Like I talk about other farms. Like I talk about White Oaks pastures. They don't care. Like they're not like, oh, just talk about us. Like I can talk about regenerative agriculture and other farms that are doing things right. And, you know, they're down to be part of it. They're down to like learn with these people as well and even improve some of their own practices. You know, not all their stuff is grass fed and grass finished, but the way that they do it, it's all ethically raised and they practice as much regenerative agriculture as they can. And then sometimes in the winter, they got to feed these things grain, you know, to keep them alive through the winter because they're Nebraska and stuff like that. So there's reasons why it's not totally grass finished, but it's like, they're like still like 95% on their grass fed, because even when they have them inside, they're feeding them mostly feed with grass in it anyway, you know?
Yeah, and it's interesting to see. I mean, you know, I interviewed a guy named Alan Williams the other day, and he said that if we could get 40% of the ranchers in the U.S., and currently it's about 5% apparently, to convert to, you know, a regenerative style grazing practice, we could literally offset all carbon emissions from all sources in the United States.
I don't know if this is from you, but lately Joe Rogan has been talking about it a lot. He just keeps saying regenerative agriculture, and like that's the guy that needs to keep saying it.
Yeah, well, I mean, I don't know. I mean, Joe follows me on Instagram, so I know he sees my stuff, whether or not
he must be reading your stuff because he's been going crazy about like he's been talking about Alan Savory and what's the other guy, Joel Salatin. Like when he brought up Joel Salatin, I'm like, man, this guy he knows his stuff. You know, like he's got.
Well, I think he's had Joe on Joel Salatin on his show at some point. So I mean, he's not you know, but I mean, I think that is, you know, as this is the fun part, as we're getting more studies on this stuff. As the ranchers are actually getting the financial resources to actually study their carbon sequestration, the data is compelling, and it's very strongly compelling that this is really making a difference. And not only that is, and the more important part for the ranchers is they can do that and make a profit. They can actually make more money doing it this way than they can conventionally. And I think that's where the needle is going to really drop, because these guys they got to support their family. They got to feed themselves. They got to earn a living. We have to remember, you know, it's nice to do good things, but you still got to feed your damn family, and you still got to pay the bills. And so to tell these people they should do it all out of altruism, and you know, it's silly. I mean, these guys need to make money just like any of the rest of us do. So I mean, I think that's going to be the biggest shift is, and as this community, like I saw in Wyoming, you know, the direct sale to consumer of individual cuts of meat, you know, you can buy a side of beef, but you can't buy a steak from a rancher, which is crazy. In 49 states in Wyoming, you can now. And so what it's showing is if they can do that direct to consumer and bypass USDA processing facilities for the small scale guys, they can compete with their grocery stores on their prices. So you can get direct ranch to people ground beef for, you know, that $3 a pound or whatever, that's a huge game changer as well. And this is where hopefully this, you know, of the issues that this quarantine, you know, lockdown, COVID-19 craziness has impacted our food supply, our business in general. It's exposing our food system for some of the problems it is with the centralized supply. And we do need a distributed supply, a regional supply, a local supply, and we need to fight for that. And I think that hopefully everyone understands that. And whether you can do it right now financially or not, you need to vocally, you know, at least in spirit, you know, put it out there and say, hey, look, guys, this is the way forward. We don't want Cargill Food, who's investing in plant-based meats, and those guys controlling all the food supply, controlling our protein supply. Because, as you know, I mean,
a lot of those plants are shutting down right now, right? Tyson just shut down like the biggest pork plant today, I think.
Well, they might. I mean, they're having some issues with that. I think that's going to be some of that's going to be temporary. They'll probably reopen when the virus stuff goes away, because the food, you know,
well, I guess what I'm saying, like maybe we have a chance to catch up a little bit. You know what I mean? Like to people eating other You know, it's
Well, I
like,
mean, hopefully it'll drive some behavior where these people say, "Hey, I can't get it from the grocery store. Let me go talk to my
yeah,
local."
let me order Piedmontese or White Oaks pasture.
Right, right. And so I
This
think
one
hopefully these
needs for,
capitalize, and a lot of these guys that can pivot do pivot to direct sales. A lot of these guys are set up for direct to restaurant sales.
yeah.
You know, like there was a bison rancher in Colorado that said, "Hey, look, I just lost 80% of my business. I'm gonna go under in a week if I can't get rid of my product." And literally the response on Facebook, and then I put a post about him. I mean, he literally was swamped with orders. He had
That
like
was the bison that you were eating the other day?
no, that was a different company. That was a different
Oh,
bison company. But and I like you get a lot of people send me meat. I mean, I know like your
yeah.
stuff. Somebody says, "Hey, would you try our meat?" I'm like, "Hell yeah."
Yeah. Yeah. I'm not going to say no to it, you know?
Yeah. So I mean, like I said, and I support anybody that's willing to, get out there and grow food for me. I think
Yeah. And
that's
good
really
meat is
important.
good meat. You know, it's all like, it's not really like, once you get to a certain point, good, like I would say Piedmontese is different just because of the texture, but like for the most part, good meat is going to be good meat. You know, like I love it all. So
Yeah, I mean, I find that I think bison. I think that some of the elk bison, some of that stuff is really really good. If you blend it with beef, I mean, it's just wonderful. Hey, here's a silly question. I don't know. Somebody asked you is did your brother Smelly become less smelly when he went carnivore?
oh, absolutely. Yeah. That's the one thing we talk about all the time is like, I made a joke is like when the whole shutdown began and everybody was out of toilet paper. I'm like, well, hey, thank God I'm carnivore. You know, there's, who cares if you run out of toilet paper? You don't really need it. And I got a pretty good response out of that. But like, yeah, I mean, I think everybody has that same thing as they go like, hey, I don't fart on carnivore. I don't, I don't, it's just different. It's different. Like I think just even the way that your stomach feels and the way that you just the way that you feel overall in general is just it's just way different. It's hard to explain. I did keto for like a year, and a lot of times I would get like sick to my stomach and just feel like there was a lot of things that were triggering things in my body that I had no idea what was going on. And when I fixed that, when I did carnivore, it fixed all that. I remember telling you that right away. Is like the number one thing is like I didn't realize, but I had really bad digestion, and I didn't even know about it. I was aware of it because my stomach would hurt, but I didn't know I had bad digestion. I just thought that's part of the diet. That's part of the plan. You eat a lot of fat, you're gonna get a stomach ache, is what I thought. And it's just not true if it's with meat. There's a big difference between slugging down MCT oil and eating the same amount of fat from a steak.
Yeah, my dog wants to communicate that. Sorry.
What's that dog's name? Maxwell?
That's Sasha. Yeah, there's probably a horse walking behind the house. She likes to bark at the horses and tell them to get away or something. So anyway, she'll stop in a second. So Chris, so back to the film. So are you filming again? Are you up with a film crew? Are you where are you?
I'm not because currently we're not funded to do anything. So right now I'm actually working on two projects. I'm just working on like a teaser for the meathead thing where I'm down like basically spending all day on YouTube just downloading clips and trying to find the right clips to put together something that makes sense to these people. That's the first process. And then like once I get money to do it, then I would go out with a camera crew and film. And my idea is like I've done this like so much that I know how to make films pretty easily. And I think like the easiest thing to do is like raise the right amount of money and just go out and do it right rather than trying to do things right now when we don't have the right money. I have all the equipment. I mean, I have a camera, but I got to pay people, and people, especially now, people got to survive and stuff like that. So, there's just some resources that I need, and Piedmontese may be able to provide that to get us started. But the first thing I need to do is just put together this little trailer. And as soon as I do that means we'll move forward. And then basically what I want to do is I want to go out for like 3 months with a camera and just shoot for like 3 months straight and tell the story that way. Like I have a lot of footage that we already shot. I have a lot of things that, Mark and I, this is what's really interesting about me and my career, I think. I'm not trying to pat myself on the back or put myself over, but what I'm saying is like I started to do a movie about the ketogenic diet about 3 years ago. I went to the Metabolic Health Summit in Florida. I filmed like everybody down there to try to get a bunch of information about keto. And then I started filming a bunch of interviews, and I interviewed everybody from, Thomas Seyfried talking about keto and cancer to Rob Wolf to Gary Taubes, every single person in this industry that you can name, like Amber O'Hearn, you. all these people. I interviewed everybody, right? And what it came down to at the end of it is I had all this information about keto, and it just wasn't interesting to me anymore because it wasn't what delivered me to the physique and the strength that I had. It was carnivore. So the whole time that I'm doing this keto movie, I keep thinking in my head, I can't do this. You know what I mean? Like, this is disingenuous. And my brother was like funding that at the time. And Mark just came to me and said, like, I don't think you want to do this anymore, kind of thing. Like, he's like, I feel like you're so carnivore and like, that's the direction you should go. And I really feel like, and that was actually gave me so much freedom because I was like, oh, like, I felt like I was kind of trapped into maybe making a keto movie because we had raised the money. But luckily, you know, Mark and Andy, his wife, were cool about it and said, let's just pivot, you know, let's just let you go do your own thing because we think that would be better for society overall. We don't care that we spent some money on this. It's just an investment. And we still have all the footage, and all the footage is great. Some of these interviews that I have with people are great, but they're all really relegated to a ketogenic diet with a much lower protein level. And when I did a ketogenic diet with a much lower protein level, I just didn't look and feel as good as I do now, you know? So I think that was a big deal, was kind of getting past that. And it's hard. Like, it's hard being a filmmaker and having to constantly like raise money, make a project. It's like these highs and lows, these ups and downs. And I think that was a big part of the reason why I was addicted to stuff, you know, why I had problems with alcohol, problems with drugs, was like, I would just get really depressed because I would get a movie off the ground. I'd have 10 people working on it. It'd be up and running and somebody would pull our funding. And I'd be like, what do I do now? And then I'd spend 6 months trying to get that funding back, and I would get the funding back, and then we'd start back up. And so everything that I've done so far has been start and stop. And I've realized that, and that's why I don't want to do it again in those ways. I think it's you're doing 3 times the amount of work doing it that way. So what I'll do is finish this teaser that I'm doing, put that out to that'll be like a more internal to like Netflix, Amazon, different places that we want to try to sell it to, and then we'll get the money and we'll go do it. So that's kind of what I'm looking for. Unless somebody just like walks up to me and says, hey, I want you to make a carnivore movie, you know, here's $500,000, then like, until that, you know. And sometimes what's weird is sometimes that happens. My movie Trophy Kids, I was just having a conversation with a guy at an Outback restaurant, and I said, he's like, well, what do you need to get started? And I said $50,000, and he pulled out his checkbook. He's like, I believe in you. You know, I'm like, okay, you know, here we go. So things like that do happen, not so often, but yeah, unless that happens, I'm just gonna do it in this way and try to be regimented about it and be smart about it.
Yeah, I you know, because there's been a couple films that have been come out recently. I know Vinnie Tortorich did one. I know Brian Sanders is trying to do one. I don't know if it's ever gonna get off the ground. I know that you know, Rob Wolf has got one coming out in this space, but nothing is specific carnivore. It's been, you know, keto, low carb, you know, environmental stuff. But I do think that I think the carnivore community now is big enough to where, you know, we need to be represented in this way. I think there's enough people that are curious about it that I think it'll be a very interesting and popular film. Obviously, there's going to be a lot of people that will thumb it down, will hate it. You know, obviously the vegan community will mobilize and that sort of
Well,
stuff.
I think what's really interesting right now is the study, the Harvard study that's going to happen. I think like that's a huge deal, and that's something that will legitimize this. You know, where for so long we've heard from Harvard School of Nutrition or whatever they call it over there,
Yeah, public health,
that everything meat is going to kill us, right? That it's all bad for us. And so for them to come out and say, hey, we're going to study meat is amazing, you know. So to me, that's going to be great to see what that happens. And like as part of the film, to me, that, you know, that's something that should be in the budget to go out to Boston and film some of that and get some of that on camera, because to me that's vital, you know, having real information from real people, because we can have all the anecdotal evidence we want and people don't believe it until you put doctor or scientist in front of it. Yet what I don't understand about that is everybody criticizes you know, doctors and scientists, yet they don't believe anything until a doctor or scientist says it, but then they say that they're all full of shit and they're all lying anyway. So it's like, I don't know who to believe, but that's why with this diet, what's beautiful about it is I don't know who to believe, but I did it and it worked, you know? So now I have proof on myself.
Yeah, I mean like I said, it's like nothing like the proof in the pudding. Yeah, I think like I said, that study, and I that's why I try to, I keep making these pleas. I do it almost every day to complete the study, do the study if you haven't done it yet, get that information out there. I know Travis and I, both Travis is in the room here, and we both have been sort of helping to trying to rally the troops to do this. And I think we're at about 3,000 people that have clicked the box that said they're eligible, and about half of those, at least last I checked, have completed, actually done the study. So
One of you guys want to send me the information, just text me whatever the information is. I'd be glad to post about it.
yeah, I mean, it's if I've got it posted on the front page of MeetRx.
I'll go check it out. I'll check it out.
It's on the front page. There's a sign up for the Harvard study, so that's something, because I try to get other influencers to say, hey, look, this benefits us all. There's no downside to it. You don't have to have your blood work done. I see Rachel in there talking about this. It's not. You can. It's part of it. If you have it, it's available. It's not a requirement.
They're basically collecting as much data as they can, right? So
as much as they can. So it may
whether
be
you have blood work, you don't have blood work.
survey data. It may just be that may be all you can provide. And then if you have before and after blood work, they're using that as well. And they're gonna they'll stratify how many respondents had blood work, how many didn't, how many of them were 90%, how many 800% carnivore. So I think it's something that's really, really important, and I do think it legitimizes, in the film, that becomes a part of it. I think you've got another guy in this chat right now. His name's Steve Zwick. He's under Regenitarian, and he is a tremendous resource for all things around the regenerative space. I don't know if you guys send each other an email or hook up.
Sure.
Because that is he sends me stuff all the time, and he's introduced me to a lot of people in the space, like Alan Williams. And
just to say to anybody here listening, if you guys have some crazy amazing story, or have a friend with some crazy amazing story, for example, I know Hadi, I know he'll be in the movie because he's directly with me all the time. He's my guy now, he did this for a year on his own, and then showed up at the gym one day basically in tears, telling me and Mark his story. And we were like, dude, come train with us. What are you doing? And so he just started training with us, and it was a kind of history from there. But I think, the people that we can help the most, that are like right next to us, like those are the most important people to take care of, the people that are closest to you. I've been very unsuccessful at getting my mom to try this, but my dad has been doing it for a long time. And my aunt Arlene had knee surgery, and she couldn't even walk around the block. Now she's walking 5 miles a day on carnivore. She takes kratom, and she does carnivore, and she loves it. And so she called me the other day from Florida and told me how good she was doing and how much she was walking and everything. And I was telling her, my dad has been biking. My dad had his whole intestines like cut open and torn out, and he had just all these problems where he almost died. And then as soon as he had that, as soon as he got over that, he had to have a triple bypass surgery. So ever since then, he's been super healthy, and he's been doing a lot of carnivore. He does, every once in a while he'll eat bad, but it's because of my mom. She always wants candy and cookies, and my mom's diabetic. And unfortunately, I hate to say it, but I don't think things look good for my mom at all. And there's really no changing her, because a lot of it's mental. So actually, I've been trying to get her to look into these psychedelics and see these other things, because literally the ibogaine healed my ACL, which was definitely torn, and it healed my rotator cuff that was torn. And I'm trying to tell my mom has a really bad knee. She can't walk. I'm telling her all these things that she can try, but it's just really hard to knock sense into your parents. I don't know how we're going to get there, but we're trying still, I'm not giving up.
Yeah, I mean, you just have to keep going. I mean, like I said, some people get it, some people don't. Some people, it takes so much suffering. And I know when I talked to your dad, he had he basically had a wound vac over his stomach. So basically, he was left open with his guts hanging out and just covered with a piece of film to let it heal. Because he had probably had compartments in there.
When I told him, I said, look, what's poking those holes in your intestines? It was like bread, and it was like all these things, all these grains that you were eating, they tear through your intestinal lining. And like, once he learned that, he kind of swore off bread, and every once in a while I'll have a piece of bread, but he knows that he shouldn't. So, he pretty much just sticks to like meat and eggs and bacon and stuff like that. And I've been really proud of him. been riding his bike like 10 miles a day and crazy stuff like that, but it's cool. It's like he's, 71 or 72, something like that. And, hopefully he sticks around a lot longer because of this, and hopefully it's not too little too late.
Yeah, I mean, I still at some point in this whole Meet RX giant community that we're creating, and like I said, I have plans to take over the whole world, take over the whole planet. I mean, it's just minor stuff, but no, I mean, I do think we're going to continue to grow, and there's a lot of things. And one thing I would like to do is have a facility, an inpatient facility, where we can actually take people like maybe your mom and just like say,
Yeah.
hey, look, you're our prisoner
Yeah.
now for a while, and that's all right.
I think that's what she needs. She needs to be like, honestly, for me to get sober, the only way I would have got sober is to be institutionalized. That's what they call it. Like, I was such a bad alcoholic. Like, I would wake up in the morning at 6 o'clock and start drinking because I was just addicted, and the only way to pull me away from that, I think the biggest single factor in my sobriety was my brother, Mark, because I respect him so much and I love him so much that when he was like let down, that his older brother, like, the only reason Mark lifts weights, the only reason he ever walked into a gym, and I'll say it a million times over, is like, it's because of you. And when I hear that, and then I know I let him down, that felt so bad. And so I just needed to right that wrong. That was like the number one thing about sobriety, was like, right that wrong, show your brother you're not a failure. And I don't know if I've proved that to him yet, but he tells me he's proud of me all the time. So hopefully I proved that to him.
Yeah, and I think it's kind of, I really, I find it interesting, very interesting, and makes me smile at the way your family dynamic is as far as support. Because I mean, I think by doing bigger, stronger, faster, you probably in some way impacted Mark's career in a positive way.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
And then his success is turning around now, helping you in other ways. And so that's really cool.
Bigger, stronger, faster kind of put Mark on the map. And what was cool about bigger, stronger, faster is that Mark didn't invent the slingshot until 2010. Bigger, stronger, faster came out in 2008. So a lot of people didn't see the correlation, but when bigger, stronger, faster was actually at its peak of being viewed was when Mark came out with the slingshot. So it was out in the movie theater. It was out on Showtime for a while. Then it was on ESPN Classic, and then it went to home video. So like by the time it got to Netflix, it was like it had already been out for like a year, And then when it went to Netflix, it just like Game Changers and any of these movies, it just kind of exploded. And that was kind of in the infancy of Netflix. There wasn't a whole lot of choices. The unfortunate thing about Netflix is they never give you the numbers. They never tell you how many people watched your movie so that you can capitalize on it. And I think that's a travesty to the filmmakers. I think, first of all, I think it's bullshit. I don't think they should run their company that way. But you can't, so like I can't, if I told people, hey, look, 20 million people watch Bigger, Stronger, Faster, that way an investor can go, well, okay, that sounds worth it to me to invest. But if I say, I don't know how many people watched it, they don't care, so I think that that's something that needs to change. I think it's something that will change in the near future, because when Tiger King came out, they announced that 34 million people watched it. And it's the first time I ever heard them say how many people watched anything. So that might change, but I think it should, because it's just going to help them to help filmmakers raise money and do things, They don't want us to have leverage, though, so that I can say, well, my movie, I know 20 million people watch Bigger, Stronger, Faster, so you got to pay me more for my next one. That's what they don't want,
Yeah, and I haven't watched Tiger King or anything. I don't really have a desire to watch it. It seems a little weird for me, but
it's amazing.
Anyway, is it? Yeah, I haven't.
Not, look, it's just entertainment. It's not
sure.
a great, thing that's going to teach you anything, but.
Yeah, anyway, well, that's good. Well, Chris, we've gone through an hour, man. It seems like it just flew by. Oh man, I look forward to you getting this film done. I mean, I know we've been talking about it for a while. Anything I can do to help, or I'm sure the community is willing to help you in any way we can. I know you'll do a good job with it, and I know it will make an impact, a huge impact on many people's lives. And so,
sure. And I have a short film I'm going to put out probably just for free on YouTube about my ibogaine experience. I think it's really, really good. It's some of the best stuff I've ever done. It's pretty crazy. So I'm going to put that out in the coming weeks, so you guys can look for that.
Yeah, let us know. I'll be happy to watch it and look at it and stuff. And I think that, we do need a movie. Vinny Tortor, they mentioned a little bit of that Vilmer Stefansson stuff, which I was quite surprised to see when he did it.
Barely tapped into it though,
He touched it a little bit, which I was quite surprised, but I know you'll do a great job.
The movie was a little weird. I love Vinny. I think he's great, but the way that it was like narrated with him like sitting there in a chair was just so bizarre to me. And like guys just it was like he was the ultimate authority and he's going to tell you this whole story. It was a little bit weird, in that respect, but I thought it was pretty well done. I thought like some of the information really got to me, like when they talk about cutting people's feet off and stuff like that with diabetes, like some of the stuff was really, really good that they had. And, other stuff was like, maybe not so much, but that's, you live and you learn,
Yeah, I can tell you. Yeah. I mean, I've cut a lot of people's feet off. I mean, I had to decide to say what I have. I've cut feet, toes, hands, thumbs, fingers, legs off.
I couldn't imagine a doctor telling me like, hey, I have to amputate something and it's because of what you ate. Like that's got to be an awful.
Well, I mean, I can tell you, I've seen some people and they beg you to cut their leg off because they're so miserable. It's infected. It hurts. They're miserable, and you cut their leg off and they feel better. I mean, as crazy as that sounds, this is how bad it gets. And it literally is horrible. I hated doing it, but it's sometimes it saves people's lives it often saves people's lives from overwhelming infection. So, all right, guys, on that wonderful note, I hope everybody's hungry. No, I'm just kidding. We'll see everybody tomorrow, or some people tomorrow. And thanks again, Chris. And I look for, let me know, Chris, anything I can do to help. Obviously, I'm
guys, if anybody wants to reach out to me on Instagram, just hit me at Big Strong Fast on Instagram, and I will hopefully get back to you. I'd love to talk to you guys. If you guys have any questions on stuff we talked about today or any input on it, I'd love to hear from you.
Awesome. Yeah. And I think, like I said, I really, Stephen over here, I know you're listening, Stephen Zwick, he's a good resource for the regenerative stuff. And I think that, in my view, that's part of the story. But anyway.
Definitely part of the story.
All right, guys. Take care. Good to see you again, Chris. You have a good day. I'm going to end it. You guys take care now. Bye, everybody. Thank you.